Our speaker tonight is certainly no stranger to the running community here in the area. She's a certified RRCA coach, coaching over 250 gals right now, or 120 gals, I'm sorry, and over 500 gals and guys in the area over the last 14 years. Instrumental in introducing hundreds of walkers and new runners into the Walk to Run programs, such as my first speed walk, my first 5K, my first marathon, Run for Life, and Walk It Off. Running over 90 marathons herself, over 40 years of active running experience, age group winners for over 30 years, U.S. Track and Field Master 5K winner. She's run 10 Bostons. The list goes on and on. Author of Fit and Faster, 100 workouts for walkers and runners, Teacher of the Year twice in Hillsborough County, president of local running club, Take the First Step, race director club events, MAD, Dash, in spring into summer, coach and lead instructor of Walk into Run programs, board of directors for Miles for Moffitt, and without further ado, Lynn Gray.
Remind you who I am. I'm going to pass these out. This is my cheat sheet, so I can make sure that I don't get off the topics. You know, Chris, I'm continually reminded about the goodness of runners. Our community is just always leaning towards helping each other in so many different areas. We're just such a great, mellow group of folks, and always willing to support each other. And I think my talk tonight really lends itself to you know, what makes one stay in the game for so many years. I started running in, well, Bill Rogers and Frank Shorter, the first time they ran in the Schlitz National Marathon there in Tampa, Florida. So 43-something years ago, before they came, I was running. And there was not many women around, but I was very blessed to meet men who were runners who were very supportive, and again, just like yourselves, trying to help me become a very, let's just say, long-distance happy runner. We started out with LSD, and I told the people at the Olympic camp that, and they thought it was, of course, a drug, and they're all young, you know, these Olympians are very young kids, and that's long, slow distance. We started out with duration training, which is exactly how we should start out with, you know, how long we should start training first on the duration. But let me go ahead and just share with you, you know, what helped me become an existing runner with 2 appendages left in the arms, etc., for so many years. I was always looking for a lifestyle of fitness when I went to FSU, because I had started to gain a little bit of weight, very stressed. I was dating a football player, and the only thing I could think of is how can I really stay with him and, you know, be with him somehow, yet get some time for myself to exercise. So while they were practicing in the middle, I would run the track. And I made a deal that every day I would run 1 mile. And it was totally rigid, but I did. And I could hardly tell you that I loved running at all. I mean, I hated it, but I was going to do it, and that was that. So I became a runner, I guess. I ran, and I did it every day since, I would say, I started college when I was 16, so since I was 16 or so, I started running. Run, walk, but I was a runner, I thought. One of the things that I also, and it just kind of gelled, I didn't even realize the benefits, but there was karate. I had a liking towards the martial arts, so unbeknownst to me, and I know Chris is very much of a sportster, he's done a lot of exciting things, but it's coming up what I did after that. I was getting flexible, and I was getting muscular, and I was getting agile. So the running and the flexibility, the conditioning, which we all know now, you should become conditioned before you really execute running a mile. I mean, you really should have your core and your upper body and your legs strong. Well, I was already doing that, so that was a stroke of luck, not a stroke of genius. I didn't really realize it. And again, I was just about the only woman. And why does that not bother me? I don't know, because anything that usually turns me right on is when they say I can't do something, and then of course some of you I know are like that. I was just watching me. So, I mean, I was kicked off the track a number of times at USF, and of course I found a way of getting back. The idea of form and technique, you know, now they call it gait analysis, and you know, we're all very savvy to that, but I had no idea. But there again, because I was taking karate, I had a strong core, and my posture probably was accommodating long distance, which I soon got into. I met, some of you know this, know these people. Mike Shaver, he's a long time runner he's always at the Gasparilla, ran every Gasparilla. These are guys that I started running with. But I already had some fairly good form, I guess, because I didn't get injured. And I was very lucky. I had their camaraderie, which is a very big tenet, I think, of staying in the game. I'm finding that as I'm getting older. It's you guys, seeing Albert and Chris, and you got great race directors putting on races. It's that camaraderie that makes me look forward to engaging in running. And it is hard work, but you know, more on that maybe later, maybe not. Donna Stone and I were talking about what's the major reason why people get into running now, and it is simply the camaraderie. A lot of people are so disconnected with texting and emailing that the rare situation of communication for us to vent and get out our moods just doesn't occur. So running, or walking and running, we get to, you know, complain and talk about Governor Scott this morning with his railroad saying no, and I mean, I was going on and on about that, but it feels so good. And you get to, there's no wrong answers. And I'm reading from the sheet because I actually was writing it as I was feeling of the process I went through when I was evolving into a runner. The cross-training, I would say any of you here are not cross-trained. This is one aspect I left out, although I guess the karate was keeping me going. Cross-training is key. I would have not had all these injuries as I was getting faster, or trying to get faster. And Sharon, you remember I used to be fast years ago. But these silly knee injuries or piriformis and all this stuff, I mean, if I would have taken some yoga, something, you know, to really keep me even, I wouldn't have had to go through all this stuff of, and you know what I'm talking about. It's things that pull you away for 3 months and then you go insane. I do cross-train now. I bike and I swim, and I don't do either of them well, but I do it because it keeps me uninjured. And I usually am the last swimmer at any given triathlon, but I keep trying. It keeps me healthy. When I started, I didn't just run the whole mile. You realize you start out with walking. I hope you do. I know the young kids will start out with a mile and then and then sometimes they don't ever want to do it again. But I mean, I ran. So this notion of Galloway has turned us into walk runners, and of course Boston now is screaming like we don't want any more slow people anymore. So now we've got to go back to just running, which is okay. But walk running is a really good way for your body to adapt. So, I mean, I definitely am an advocate, whether you put a ratio on it or not. The adaptation I always had, and you'll grow into it in a more fun way and not hate running. I will say something about walking. If you have a schedule and it doesn't have easy walking or easy running within the schedule, you're really setting yourself up, in my belief, for a lot of failure, because the Florida heat is 90, 85 degrees. And when we used to train, I had coaches that didn't want me to stop. I mean, I used to plant water like a camel plants water 2 miles, and I got in trouble for that because you're stopping, you know, you're supposed to be running. And I totally dismiss that. I really am an advocate of stopping and getting your equilibrium back. And I always plan recovery all the time during the summer. These Crocs are a little bit kind of nice because they give your foot a little bit of massage, but you're all familiar with the stick and the foam roller. I truly think the poor man's massage, or woman's, is to have that right by your side. Now, I roll on that foam roller just like, like the old-fashioned bread rollers, which we used to use just to roll all the knots out. And that keeps you pretty much in sync with the smooth muscle area, which it feels really good. So if you don't have those two tools, I would definitely make sure you have that. Unless your pocketbook is so full of money you want to have a weekly massage, which is also quite effective, but sometimes it can get expensive. The ice, when we went to, and every year we go to ZAP, which is an Olympian training camp for the future Olympians. And one of the things I learned, among everything else, is ice water. Well, it sounds so simple, but they run 95 miles a week and 3 times a day, many times. So how the heck do they do their morning run and bounce back and do an afternoon run and then a hill? They sit in a creek with ice water at that particular camp, or they have ice water in the car and they pour it on their legs and the inflammation goes down. Now, I've learned that and it works so powerfully well. I would imagine if we had more soft surfaces, that would absolutely lessen our impact injuries and our inflammation, but we don't. We're limited in many ways that way. But ice is nice, and I carry a gallon of ice water. It's in my car. I was trying to use some etiquette and not pour it right in front of the policeman out there, but because I was changing clothes already. But at any rate, I just got done working out. So ice is always a very good way. Now this is setting the table. Now I don't know, Ginger, if there's new folks here or not. I know some of you are not, but just in case you haven't engaged, I wanted to prepare that. So now you know what to do and you're ready to begin the run. The ratio, the walk-to-run ratio, the number one thing in any training is duration. You want to do Chris's upcoming half marathon? Well, you don't have too much time if you're just starting, but you really, truly, to do a good bout of exercise, to do the best you can, you have to at least cover the distance in training. And then you might say, well, do I have to cover a whole marathon before you do a marathon? Well, if you really want to race a marathon, it's probably best to at least get to 24 miles. But a 5K, you want to have the distance done before you actually try to put yourself under pressure of how fast you can do it. So I would say if you're a beginner, set yourself up a ratio, and then, yeah, soon take out the walking breaks. And that comes with duration training. Nothing better than being out on the road for a while and getting the time on your feet. Even if you get tired and warm, walk for the last half mile. It's probably one of the best things you can do before you get in the car. I think many of us would subtract so many injuries if we took a half-mile walk after we ran. We're so busy now, we jump in the car and pick up, our grandkids or our daughter and son, and then our legs are like, so at any rate, the walk-to-run ratio, I think, is foremost a good start. The introduction of the run, I think we all know that there is the jog, which I find very comfortable. But then there is that little bit of a tempo, like if Albert's out in San Antonio, he's not jogging, he's running, but he's not running all out because there's a lot of hills and he knows he'll pass out if he goes 95%. So we do have this faster pace with the arms moving a little faster and the legs, the stride value is a little bit wider. And then there is the 5K, where the adrenaline is going. We go out like Zorro and hopefully stay that way. And that's your 90% effort. But irregardless, pacing subtracts overuse injuries because you're using a different part of your foot to a degree and you're angling yourself differently. And I would suggest if you only have one pace, the jog, once in a while go out and do a 95%er, a fast move. And once in a while do that fartlek, which is the speed play. Go to light pole, go a little faster on the stride, and then slow down to a jog. And actually you'll gain aerobic ability and have more fun. it gets kind of boring if you just do the same thing. But LSD is what we used to do. Long, slow distance, and we just ran and ran. When we did marathons years ago, we used to not have any Gatorade. Running shoes were not made. And we used to just stop at the stores for oranges or donuts or whatever. That's how we did them. We stopped. And I would suppose, I used to love doing it because it was just a big adventure. And actually I was always with men that were, sorry Lou, were fairly good shape, so it was never a big sorrow for me to go long distances, but at any rate, things have changed. Now, the goal of the month, I think a club such as what you all have here, and we have all over the place, and it's so important that we do work together, because as you said, Ginger, we're all into this for health and fitness, so we were helping each other. We all are, in a way, little disciples, because for every person you tell about your race or what you did, you're affecting 5 to 8 other people to say, maybe I can do that. Maybe I should try it. And you have to remember, our nation is a nation of total obesity. And here we are. Look at, we wish we had a huge auditorium, but we're actually influencing people in the right direction. So we really, our role, I think, is quite important. I think we have an advantage. But clubs like this, we're out there supporting, and it's such a great thing. The support is very, very neat. It's very necessary. Even on those cold mornings, I still wonder if I'm going to get up and run, and I have to actually run around the house to warm up, and then I'll run out the door because I can't stand being cold. And it's just the way it is. The goal of the month, I think, is important. I think we should be realistic and say, and I'm looking at the date, Friday. I mean, I like those goals. I mean, it's neat to have something to work towards, even in any type of any part of your life. Why live a life of quiet desperation when you can do some neat things like this is a preserve? It's beautiful. I mean, go take a camera and take pictures of the birds, do something. But have fun and make it a goal. Make it a new goal. It's my first race I've ever done in this particular area, whatever it is. I think it's great fun. Boston just put their times down for 5 minutes. Well, so we got to work a little harder, and that's a new goal. It's kind of twisted people up a little bit lately, but used to be it was 10 minutes difference. In 2003, before that, we really had to work a little harder, and it was definitely running time then, running hard. Frequency. I think when I was under a coach, and I can't name him here, I made you can't blame the coach because you're concurring. You're saying, okay. But if someone tells you to run 6 days a week, and you're a type A personality, such as Exhibit A here, I'm going to run 6 days a week, and I like to win, and I'm used to it. But I used to get injured all the time, and I used to get colds and flus and all the sicknesses. And you'd think I'd figure it out. Duh, you're running too hard, you're overdone. And plus you're getting older, Lynn. So when I finally realized that my frequency, my amount of days, I started to rethink and say, well, okay, this is it's not going right, and I'm not enjoying these 7 mile in the morning days and track and tempo and long runs. And so I went ahead and just made the quality, and many of you are familiar with quality versus quantity. The quality of your runs lessens the amount of frequency, and then your frequency can be supported with cross-training instead. I think that's a better balance versus running every day, hey, let's jump in the water and swim or bike, and it changes your muscles and lets them relax. And I think that's the direction, I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir, that you all realize is going to support lifelong fitness more than running 6 or 7 days a week. And that's being rational. God forbid we would be that way, but it's a possibility. Now, part 3, getting good at it. There's some really, really good seasoned runners in here. And I don't have to speak to them, but I know that hill training has always been my secret weapon. I had a workout, a 10-mile killer workout, and that was how I could win some of these races, because it wasn't because I was fast. I'm not an elite runner, never have been, but I was strong, and I would be like a bull. So that's because I had all this hill training, and I will tell you that it supports long distance really well, especially as you get older. You lose so much muscle so quick, and you get out on those hills and you're working and pumping those legs, you get a lot of good return. And I think some of you who have been out to San Ana, this is the only place for hills, by the way, unless you go to a parking garage. Or the bridges, yeah. And I go to San Antonio because I can run down on the grass for the most part. That's the impact thing. Today, this morning, we almost got run over because Lynn had a little bit of a different route. It was on the highway. So you got to be careful that you pick your routes where you can jump on the grass and not into the ditch that is the abyss. I don't think Monica will ever speak to me again, but anyway, she made it back. We were supposed to do 8 miles, but we wound up doing 9. But anyway, the hill work, I think, is key. And any book will tell you that you should probably integrate that with the beginning of your training program, because strength comes before speed. You really want your strength. And speed, by the way, we'll get into that in just a second, is the danger of the muscles. But holding on to that for a second. So if you have a hill work once a week, whether it be the bridge or the parking lot or San Antonio, then how about we put the long run, right? We have the long run, which is so enjoyable. You can have a social time and make it whatever you like. I always like the point-to-point. We used to park at the Doubletree, which is in the Causeway, and then run all the way to Sand Key. That was point-to-point. And I liked it because it was a little adventurous, and you get this, that, and the other, because you have to have someone pick you up to bring you back, otherwise it turns into an ultra. But then you get to jump in the water. But keep those long runs interesting. I mean, I would say if someone invited me over to the Causeway and wanted to show me a new long run, I would take the girls with me. And we go everywhere because it keeps you in the game. It makes the variety is good. The variety is definitely good. I mean, for 40-something years, if I did the long run in the same place, I'd be in the insane asylum. So that, I think, is very key, that we share long runs, safe long runs, too, for women and men as well. The intensity, I tried the beginners. I have the USF track. I lease it because for the beginners, I want them to have light when we have darkness. There's nowhere for the beginners to go, and the seasoned ones always figure out somehow where to go. But I don't want the track anymore for the beginners, because that's that type A personality that even if you tell them to walk fast, they giddy up, and more than not, they carry on too much. Track, no matter how thin you slice it, in my assessment, is for the seasoned runners, because when you go fast and you're right next to somebody and you kind of want to beat that person, you're going to hyperextend those muscles just maybe 3 days after your long run, and bingo, you know, not a tear, but a hyperextension, just enough to set you back. I have to do track on my own because I'm so competitive that if I get next to anybody, I mean, it's a sickness. I mean, I have to actually take myself and put myself on my neighborhood road and mind my own business, and then I'm safe, because I used to get injured at track. But at any rate, I always want track because it's for leg turnover, aerobic ability, and by golly, it's the best bang for the buck. That's how you're going to get, you get fast, there's no question. That and or a 5K. Those 5Ks are very potent. And I'm going to almost finish, so you don't have to worry that I'm going to keep talking all night. The going for the gold. I wish that I had all the shortcuts that I have now. I think there's kind of shortcuts. I wish I had a coach when I was starting. I had nice friends who meant well, who were never coached, but obviously in 40-something years I've done a lot of silly things. They weren't always wise, and I did get injured. I have a tremendous amount of things I can tell you that I had to live with. I never stopped. Ginger knows this. I mean, I don't miss any days. I've run with them anyway. I ran Boston last year with just got done with a cracked heel fracture and I ran and just took it easy, but I've not ever had to stop, but I've run in uncomfortable conditions. Professional coaching is really, really very wise. They can help you. I think that if you have a friend that is very well-intentioned, that's good. But if you have a coach that's objective, that will say, hey, you want to go to Boston and you want to qualify in 2 months and you missed your last attempt by 9 minutes, you know, someone's got to tell that person the chances are probably pretty slim, because, you know, this is the overtraining syndrome. We get very passionate. You need someone objective who's a professional and put you in the right place. One of the other things that I will tell you is the base training. When you get injured, that's always the obvious never, but we do. You can go ahead and cross-train through your injury, but if you keep your base, your chances of getting injured are less, because your muscular system and all of your fuel systems are very, very comfortably set. So then if someone says, hey, let's do, God forbid, an ultra, I don't want to get into that, but let's do a half marathon and you have a nice 20-mile base, it's not such a big deal. You know, now you're just building on strong legs and mileage, etc. But once you lose the base, you got to be careful starting over again, because there again, and as we get older, we appreciate this. One of the things too, for those of you who want to do your pinnacle event and your training, you're doing long distance, cross training, maybe a track workout every other week, and tempo. Your body can pretty much handle like 3 months of this business, but after a certain time, you know, you get a peak. And when you have the peak, you're good for maybe 4 or 5 races. But if you don't make that goal and then you want another peak and keep training at that intensity, I've learned the hard way that your body will suggest that it needs a rest. You know, you've got to be very, very careful. This again, I'm pointing towards lifetime fitness. I don't even train anyone who thinks about an event. I like it for their life. And the camaraderie and all the other things come with it. So what a neat package deal. The last thing I have to tell you is, and I learned this from an ultra marathon who does cross country, is to wear black socks, because they don't show dirt, and you can go ahead and look like you're kind of nifty, because, you know, there's no dirt on this for sure. I ran in the dirt just recently, but she said, Lynn, buy all black socks, so that's what I did, and I thought that was a really great training secret. So I also think, and I'll say one other thing, it takes a lot of discipline, and I think that's a very good aspect of life that as we see our younger generations, perhaps they don't have as much. I know that one of the things that when I taught at Jesuit, I had to be a very big disciplinarian, but I was trained by the military for a while, and I was always used to doing what I was told. I didn't second guess, and to this day I follow my orders. But I think discipline is a big aspect of running, because it's not always what you want to do, but whenever you get done, you always feel better. You always feel better. And anytime you do a race, you're always going to want to do better. And what a good way to face life. Gosh, next month, I'm going to dig in and do this, and then the next year, etc. And people that are race directors, such as yourself and Chris Lauber, who lend us these beautiful races, I mean, they give us a fortune of opportunity, so to improve and to enjoy. If you have any questions and answers, well, I should have answers. So if you have any questions, Q&A, you can ask me, but I don't know if you do or not.